Okay, everybody. Show number two on the Monday, the 13th of April. We had a big show on the first one. Got already over 200 views on the first show today. I hope everybody got to watch it. I was hot start, right? Oh, well, see if everybody got my notification or not tonight. Chico. Chico. Hello, everybody out there. Where's everybody at? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and start the show. No one's going to come and chat tonight.
Well, Democrats, a considerable portion, maybe like 100 Democrats would have to vote with Republicans, right, in order to do this.
Yes, and I don't see any way out of this. I mean, there's no way after the videos with the alleged hooker and prostitute and porn star coming out, the stories from his former employees and staff, women coming forward. There's no way out of this. If he wants any dignity, which he doesn't deserve any, he should resign. Otherwise, we will expel him. My understanding, a deal has been made that we will do Tony Gonzalez and Swalwell this week. I'm pushing for more because we just can't get them out of Congress fast enough. And if we allow this kind of behavior to continue, both within our own ranks and within the Democrats, nothing is ever going to change. Yes. And it's not easy. This is not an easy time for Congress, but we have to show the American people we have honor, we have integrity, that they can trust us to do the right thing. Because if these people were employed in the private sector, they would have been fired a long time ago. And we just can't have people making these important decisions that are making money off of the backs of taxpayers, that are stealing money, or that are raping women. Like, we just can't have this in Congress. We're done with this.
Okay, that was only a minute.
Plunge into a long weekend. With IHG's 20 hotel brands, you can guess how you guessed.
Oh, this video is going to get so many mad and I'm going to get so much hate for it. But you know what? The truth has to be said and someone's got to say it. So might as well be me. Anyway, the reason why I hate communism and socialism with an absolute passion is because it's actually rooted in exploiting the most elementary of human emotions, which is envy and jealousy, masked as some bullshit virtue signaling caca story, such as, oh, if we just take from the haves and give it to the have-nots, somehow magically we're going to equalize the power in this world and we're going to give power to the people. Great little story, kind of like Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, and the Easter Bunny. It's cute on story, but it's actually not rooted in reality. The reality of communism is basically to eliminate the upper classes that have some sort of power to fight against a tyrannical government. Because what happens when you take from the haves, who actually know how to deal with money, and give it to the have-nots, is the have-nots will lose that money even quicker, siphoning it right back to the upper 1% elite and destroying the middle class. That's all it is. And you want to know how I know that? Look at people who have won the lottery. 70% of them will lose all of their money 2 to 5 years of winning a lottery. And you want to know why? It's because the have-nots have been programmed to not think generationally, to not think about the future, to live paycheck to paycheck, to go suck at a club every single weekend, impress people that don't even care about them, pretend that they have more money than they do, instead of actually being rooted in reality, morals, and all of that stuff. That is the problem. That is the reason why we can't give power to the people at the bottom, is because it's crab in the bucket type of mentality. So if you actually want to give power to the people, start telling people to take responsibilities for their own fucking lives instead of taking away from those who actually work for their shit. And I'm not talking about Nepo babies and people being born into money. I'm talking about genuinely people who have worked their entire lives, worked up to a small business or whatever. You cannot take away from them to make everybody else equal, because we were never born equal. Nature isn't equal. There are those who have and there are those who have not. There's people with strengths. There's people with weaknesses. Nothing is fair in this life. Otherwise, nature wouldn't be balanced. All communism does is hive mind people into coming together, being exactly the same, which is poor, and then being controlled by the upper corrupt classes, because they know if they make us all poor, none of us can fight back. And that is why mostly communism turns into war and like revolutions, and a lot of people die. So yeah, unfortunately, that's the truth.
Okay, former Canadian and lives in Texas.
Perfect.
Okay, let's do. 3 minutes on Trish.
China. And who sent Ilhan Omar's daughter down to Cuba last week? When we were taking out the power grids and she was living it up in a 5-star hotel with her other little damn buddies like Hassan Piker. Quite a mouth on him. He said some pretty bad stuff. White House actually tweeted some of it out yesterday. I didn't have time to remove all the obscenities, otherwise I'd show you, but he's one disgusting dude. Sent Ilhan Omar's daughter down there with Hassan and a bunch of other lefty libs, all bought and paid for by Code Pink, which just happens to be run by one Jody Evans, who just happens to be married to the guy who's orchestrating all of China's propaganda. A guy by the name of Neville Singman, who the Congress is calling on for testimony, but he doesn't come back to the country because, you see, the minute he does, he'd be held in contempt. He'd be thrown in jail because he refuses to answer any of these questions. Don't take my word for it. The New York Times did a giant expose on him too. Neville Singman. He's a big part of all these protests, the No Kings protests going on. That's all him. Code Pink is his wife. Code Pink used to be, you see, very, very anti-China. But then it suddenly decided that since she was married to him, or dating him, it couldn't be anti-China anymore. Plus, there was a heck of a lot of money coming in from China, so they just abandoned the whole Uyghurs platform, and they embraced what they do so
Hey, Sarpa, you're the first one chat.
Manipulation of Western minds. TikTok, none of this is by accident, guys. Iran, so proud of its memes. In fact, New York Magazine just did a big, big cover article on this thing, you know? The amazing memes of Iran. Thank you. I'd rather have an amazing army, navy, and a little bit more than a few memes, but we'll give them that. They are trying to peddle their influence. And Ilhan Omar is part of it. Her daughter, seemingly on the take. Not a smart woman. Not a smart family. Not a smart group of people at all, as the president has reminded us.
A lot of the news doesn't talk about that. They talk about, oh, women's rights. You want to see women's rights? You're not going to see it there. It's amazing when I see some of the stupid people like, you know, AOC +3, all that group. They talk about, oh.
The Democrat.
Okay, that was a 3-minute clip. I did a few short ones, you guys, already. I had a few people listening, but Starfire and Terry were the first two in chat, so we got a Billy Bean tonight, 24 minutes, I think. I got a bunch of other ones. make sure you guys go back and watch the first show. We had Nell and Holly from last night, and then we had Nick Shirley, 15-minute video. So we had a big show on the first one, over 200 views already. So I don't know where everybody's at tonight. The weather's getting warm. Okay, I got Derek Johnson one. Ten minutes.
Here, I know I don't come on here a whole lot, just because I manage all of my social media accounts. So that means all my Facebooks, which are 3 of those and 1 personal. And then I have my X account, my True Social account, this TikTok here, and a few other things. So, but just a few nuggets for you. So like the tariffs, you see right now, all the tariffs bringing in all the money. The one thing that shows that the whole thing's been a military operation, military occupation, continuity of government, straight up laws and orders show that first off. But then there's a few nuggets out there, kind of like the tariffs. The tariffs are presidential authority, which is your trade acts of 62 and 74. And so not one single time from 2021 to 2025 for the people that thinks that, quote unquote, Joe was real. He never once terminated a tariff. Also from 2021 to 2025, not one single judge tried to block a tariff. All right, so that shows you right there straight out the gate. That's a little nugget for you. Also showing you your military occupation, continuity of government, wartime powers is your the AP, the PBS, NPR, all those things are mainstream media. So CNN got hammered straight out the gate. And then you saw President Trump posting about the AP, so the Associated Press. The appeals court has upheld a ban twice on the Associated Press, so they're banned from Mar-a-Lago, White House, which also means presidential travel. That right there is straight up 47 United States Code, Section 606, which is actually titled War Powers of the President. Any other time you wouldn't want that because it could be deemed as a quote unquote dictator. But laws and orders outline that we're in a continuity of government. So when you have a continuity of government, you don't have a military occupation. You just got to know a little bit about those. Then Obama and Russiagate. So you're seeing Obama resurface all over President Trump's post and also the FBI, the DOJ, etc. Well, it's all strategic. You know, a lot of people think this is real time. It's not real time. The laws and the orders show that once you study and comprehend what you study, a military occupation, military government, continuity government, and then all the laws and orders around that entail around that to show you what you're looking at. But for example, quote unquote Obama, right? So let's start off with Michelle first. She hasn't posted on X with 21.5 million followers. She hasn't posted on there since June the 19th. Comey hasn't posted on his X since I think it's June the 10th, somewhere in there. And then you got Obama, who has 130,400,000 followers, and hasn't said anything about Russiagate. And then all your top Democrats haven't said anything about Epstein whatsoever. But on the Russiagate, you're seeing all the evidence of that come out. Well, the real evidence is in 23-939, which is a Supreme Court docket filed by President Trump, Donald J. Trump, versus United States government, March the 19th, 2024. And it specifically asks the question in there, can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit an assassination against a political rival? And it says in there specifically that combat generals, plural, and senior level officials, plural, resounding no. And then it goes on to say in there that any military officer who carried out such order committed murder. All right, so Obama is not in the War Powers Act. And so the last president involved with SEAL Team 6 with anybody would be Obama and Osama bin Laden, which was May the 2nd, 2011. But the big question with military attorneys and federal attorneys was Obama's war powers to call in airstrikes on Libya. Well, that's separate than Osama. So Libya pulls in Hillary because she was Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013. She was the one under congressional hearing for who? Benghazi, Libya. Who was the leader of Libya? That would be Gaddafi. Who died? Who was assassinated 5 months after Osama bin Laden? Gaddafi. And Gaddafi had stood in front of the UN assembly in 2011, not long before he was quote unquote assassinated. And he said the same five world powers cannot rule the world. And also went on to say, are we not going to investigate what happened to Saddam Hussein? He was friends with the U.S. until they what? Hanged him. All right. And he was talking about the old U.S. He was talking about that U.S. because that was 2011 when he was saying that. So that's where your real story is. So, 2017 to 2021 was a resetting of the legislative branch. That's when all the unique laws and orders were put into place to allow what took place in 2021 to 2025, which would have been your actual visuals of your puppet government in exile, which is unconventional warfare, irregular warfare. All the laws and orders show this. Presidential emergency action documents show that. So all the troops movement, the 1 million reserve components federalized. Well, then what proves that's also a military occupation is one key factor. So Executive Order 13848, September the 12th, 2018, which was 2 months before any election under President Trump. So the National Guard were called out 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024 for the election polls. Well, soldiers can't be at polls unless on federal authority by the president, all right, because there's a Title 18 federal law against that if they're not in official capacity. All right, Title 18, Section 592. All right, so we know for a fact on nationalguard.mil sites that the National Guard have been called out for those elections. All right, but there's no Title 10 on paper. There's no Title 10 on the Federal Register. So the only place that federal authority, that call up could be by the president is in a presidential emergency action document, which they can join with and they coincide with a continuity of government. All right, and there's a continuity of government order in place, Executive Order 13961 from December the 7th, 2020. All right, 3 days later is the most recent and last, or the last most recent order of succession within the Department of Defense. Every single president had an order of succession with the Department of Defense and National Security Council, except for quote unquote Joe. All right, so there's that. And then other proof, President Trump in 2024, all the way back, even starting in 2021, 2022, 2023 speeches, he said the terms occupied country, white flag of surrender, capitulation, and puppet governments. Now, the capitulation and puppet government terms have been used in mainstream media. And also, for example, February the 18th, 2025, a reporter asked President Trump about a capitulation and a puppet government with Russia. All right. I'm the only one who's ever talked about puppet governments because I'm a retired veteran, one, but also because of my family and my grandfather who served during World War II, and that's when they were used. So see, most of the guys qualified to talk about this are not with us anymore. So you got to have people like me who knows that, but also compare that with the military and federal of what's going on. So all those terms are not federal government terms. They're law war manual terms. An occupied country, President Trump said that in October this past year. He said, we're an occupied country. We will soon no longer be an occupied country. The Great Liberation starts November the 5th, and the Great Restoration starts on January the 20th. He said starts. He didn't say finish. So we're in a partial continuity government because the continuity government executive order was partially revoked on January the 19th, 2025. So why would quote unquote Joe continue 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies by President Donald John Trump. That's deporting illegal migrants, taking back the Panama Canal, freezing the assets of Chinese, funding Chinese military, also banning all of the press, because that's one of those executive orders. So all these things, all right, it's no coincidence. It's straight up by law, a military government, military occupation, continuity government, all unconventional warfare, all irregular warfare. And that's why I have #1 best-selling books, The Midnight Rider, Rides Again, Part 1, Part 2. You can find me on my link tree, LINKT.
Okay, the latest on DJ, I got a 2-part one on what's her name?
In Somalia, we execute pedophiles, i.e., like Trump. And I think a lot of the
5 minutes on
recklessness
each one.
that she's speaking about, because she's getting very reckless now, that shows me, and I think people are listening, that she's desperate and she's afraid. And she's afraid and desperate for what? For 2 reasons. One, she filed a report, a financial statement that said she could be worth up to $30 million. And the year before, she had almost no money. And the other thing is, of course, the $8, $9, $10 billion Somali fraud is getting very close to her.
Victor Davis Hanson says most people have no idea how fake Ilhan Omar really is. And after you hear this, you'll see exactly what he means. She's out here comparing Trump to pedophiles executed in Somalia. That's not politics. That's a woman who knows something's coming. Omar filed a financial disclosure claiming up to $30 million in net worth. 1 year earlier, she had almost nothing. Now an $8 to $10 billion Somali fraud investigation is allegedly closing in on her directly.
See the
For
first
tax
show,
dollars,
we had a good
for
one.
sudden fortune. Cases that size don't disappear quietly. And Hansen says the worst hasn't even landed yet. What happens when it does?
Well, let's turn then to recent comments by Ilhan Omar, who said that Trump is a pedophile and should be executed. She seems to not understand the culture of the United States, that even if she thinks he's a pedophile, he's innocent until proven guilty. And then the whole idea of execution, et cetera, is extreme.
She has immunity as a member of Congress of what she says, I think, on the congressional floor. The last celebrity who said something similar was George Stephanopoulos. He said that, I think, 11 times that Trump was a racist. Remember in the E. Jean Carroll trial, the judge misspoke, or he was so unprofessional when he said
Is this guy
Trump
okay?
was not convicted
Legal?
of rape, but sexual assault. But he said, what's the difference? But there is a difference under the, a very broad sexual, you can touch somebody, it's a sexual assault. But so she should be careful because there's no evidence. In fact, she had pretty poor timing because, about 48 hours before she said that, a archive emerged where Trump himself had called 2006 before Jeffrey Epstein was even convicted of anything. So he was saying, you got to get this guy out of here. And the subtext was he had seen him with these young girls. And so it's pretty clear that he didn't go to the island. He didn't partake in what Jeffrey Epstein was offering, yet she says this. And then she says, at least in Somalia, we execute pedophiles, i.e. like Trump. But then the point is, well, you've been accused of contrasting in a negative way the United States with this failed state of Somalia. You said that the United States was trashy and dirty. You said that the dictators were worse here. Why would you go back to that meme or theme again, that things are better in Somalia because you execute pedophiles and you don't do it here?
Ladies and gentlemen, Ilhan Omar just called for the execution of the president. Not metaphorically, not a tweet she can walk back. She went on record saying Donald Trump is a pedophile and that, direct quote, at least in Somalia, we execute pedophiles. That's Ilhan Omar. Congresswoman, Minnesota's 5th district, born in Somalia, came here as a child refugee. Minnesota's most famous grievance celebrity, standing up to call for the sitting American president to be put to death. What? Here's why this matters to you beyond the obvious outrage of it.
Hear it?
The desperation behind this rhetoric is pointing at something much larger. A net worth that jumped to $30 million in a single year from essentially nothing. An $8 to $10 billion welfare fraud investigation closing in on her political circle. And Victor Davis Hanson has been watching all of it. He knows exactly what she's afraid of. Let me set this up for you guys. VDH is not a cable pundit. He's a classicist, a military historian, a man who still works his own family farm in California's Central Valley. No green room angles, no career to protect by hedging. When he says she's desperate and scared, that is a measured read from a serious person. And what he lays out about the fear underneath her recklessness right now, VDH has been tracking this story and he doesn't miss.
It's pretty clear.
That's part one. I got a part two.
One of the military hirelings, I guess it's President Barry or whatever his name was, that committed genocide. And that's how you got here. People forget that about her. She poses as a left-wing cause celeb, but she was from the elite of the elite government hierarchy that was conducting a war of death. And that's how they fled here. And I think a lot of the recklessness that she's speaking about, because she's getting very reckless now. And that shows me, and I think the people are listening, that she's desperate and she's afraid. And she's afraid and desperate for what? For two reasons. One, she filed a financial statement that said she could be worth up to $30 million. And the year before, she had almost no money. So she married this person who she had been paying as a campaign operative. And then he had no money. And now suddenly we find out he has a winery worth millions of dollars. He's got all these businesses. And so the obvious implication is that there are people who were giving him money for influence with her. But we don't know that. But she needs to explain how she can be in Congress. I mean, Nancy Pelosi became worth a couple $100 million, but it took she and her husband 40 years with inside trading and all that. She needs to say how she made 30 million in 1 year. And the other thing is, of course, the $8, $9, $10 billion Somali fraud is getting very close to her. She knows that she's the pinup girl for Somali. She, by her own volition, she wanted to be the face of the Somali immigrant. And, 75% of the people are on public assistance, first and second generation Somalis. So if you go, if you want to be the pinup for the Somali immigrant community, then when you think that in the post-George Floyd woke era that's cool and neat, and you're going to get a Somali mayor, which they almost had, and you were taking over Minnesota, and then when things go south because the real Somali community is disclosed, and then all of a sudden you say, I had nothing to do with it. Well, she did. And all of these people, everybody in elected office, Fry, Waltz, Ellison, either got money from the Somali community or knew what was going on.
Okay, let's walk through what he just put on the table. The $30 million first. You guys, this number is the actual story. Quick explainer on financial disclosures, because not everyone knows this. Every member of Congress is legally required to file one every year. Assets, liabilities, approximate net worth, all of it. The whole purpose is transparency. If a congresswoman votes on a federal spending bill and her bank account triples that same month, the public has the right to see it. The system only works if people actually look. And what her disclosure shows is that in one calendar year, 1 year, she went from essentially no money to a reported net worth of up to $30 million. How? Her husband, the same man she was literally paying campaign funds to work for her, which was already its own ethical disaster, now has a winery, businesses, assets worth millions. Nobody at CNN, nobody at MSNBC, none of the brave journalists who love to talk about holding power accountable is asking the obvious question, where did it come from? Look, I'll be straight with you. I don't know the answer. I genuinely don't. But when someone who controls federal appropriations is married to someone who became a millionaire with no coherent origin story, that question doesn't disappear just because the press decides not to ask it. And then there's the fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, the $8 to $10 billion Somali welfare fraud is not a theory. Federal prosecutors in Minnesota went after people connected to a federal child care assistance program. The Child Care Assistance Program, CCAP, who allegedly funneled money at a scale that investigators called one of the largest pandemic fraud cases in American history. Hundreds of millions of dollars, some of it sent overseas. Now, Ilhan Omar spent years positioning herself as the symbol of the Somali American community, the face of it, her entire political brand. And when that community's political leadership gets indicted for stealing from American taxpayers, you don't get to quietly back away. You don't get to claim ignorance. Tampon Tim Waltz is connected to this money. Keith Ellison is connected. The entire Minnesota Democrat machine is wrapped up in these networks. And the feds are getting close to her specifically. She is cooked, and she knows it. That's why she's out here throwing execution rhetoric around like she has nothing left to lose. Ladies and gentlemen, the family history VDH brings up is not a tangent. It's the whole context. Her father was a senior military figure in a regime that committed documented ethnic cleansing. The Barre government in Somalia murdered civilians. That is recorded history. That family fled those consequences, came to America, and received everything this country has to offer: safety, opportunity, welfare support, education, healthcare, and eventually a seat in the United States Congress. And then she turned all of it into a career telling America how terrible it is. She's up there delivering this with the full performance, every gesture saying she is the wrong party here, while calling for a presidential execution. If it wasn't this serious, I'd want to know who writes her material. I'm going to stop and reframe this because I keep wanting to make it complicated. It isn't. Ayan Hirsi, same country of origin as Omar, also fled violence, also came to the West with nothing. That woman has spent her life writing, advocating, defending Judeo-Christian civilization, fighting for the values that actually built free societies, went through genuine horror, and came out fighting for something real. Two women from the same place with the same starting point and two completely different choices. You guys know which one the mainstream media celebrates. You've watched it happen for years. The double standard isn't subtle anymore. She calls for a presidential execution, and the press frames it as speaking truth to power. A Republican congressman says something 1/5 as extreme, and he's finished in 48 hours. Hearings, resignation calls, full apology tours. They claim to own tolerance, anti-discrimination, the moral high ground on every issue, and then practice the most naked hypocrisy on live television. I am done being surprised by it. Actually, no, I'm not. I will never be done being surprised by it. Every time I think I've found the ceiling, she finds a new floor. Will she face real consequences for any of this? Should she? Without question. Will she? That I genuinely don't know. I'm not going to tell you justice is coming because I can't promise that. But here's what I will say. Nobody was connecting these dots. Nobody was putting pressure on any of this until this administration made accountability impossible to ignore. Trump came in and suddenly the fraud cases have legs. Suddenly the financial disclosures get scrutiny. Suddenly men like Victor Davis Hanson get the platform to say plainly what serious people have been saying privately for years. That matters. Ladies and gentlemen, she came from a country where they execute people, and she brought that instinct with her all the way to American power. Victor Davis Hanson sees it, and now so does a lot of the country. America is better than this whole thing. I still believe that most days. Thank you all very much for.
That was good. 10-minute one. This guy on TikTok, Telegram, he's back on. He's been missing for a while. This guy's good.
The whole time I've been gone about the Democratic grift and how they tried to use Trump as a distraction. See, what they tried to do was dig into his past and say all of this bad stuff about Trump. Nobody ever cried, oh, they're weaponizing the government against Trump. Nobody ever said that. Everybody was like, oh, Trump's bad, Trump's this, Trump that. But when Trump started digging into all of their histories, oh, he's weaponizing the government against people. It's like the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. They want to throw rocks, but then they turn around and hide their hand like, yeah, we didn't do anything. Like, no, you tried to expose this man for a bunch of things from Stormy Daniels on down the line. The moment he started exposing all y'all for fraud in the American people, actually doing things that affected us, trillions of dollars going through US aid to other countries instead of coming to the black community. When he started exposing the Democrats for who they really were, now they want to cry now. They weren't just against Trump. Trump said, no, they're not after me. They're after you. He said that before. They're after your money. They're sitting there playing your community out, but they're getting your vote every single time. That's what everybody's upset at. Because you ask people, what is the Democratic policy? Like, what policy do you got? Well, hate Trump. That's your main policy? Yeah, hate Trump. Trump's bad, hate Trump. That's not a policy that's going to help the black community, though. We want to know, what are you going to do for the black community other than give us welfare? How are you going to create wealth in the black community? We want trade schools. We want jobs. We want land. We want something to actually leave our children other than debt. Instead, Somalis come over here and become millionaires. Romanians come over here and become millionaires. Everybody who's on these welfare, daycare, healthcare programs that the Democrats start somehow become millionaires, but we don't become millionaires, and we've been here for over 400 years. We sit up every day working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, going to all the colleges they tell us to go to, getting certificates when they say get a certificate, and somehow the black communities don't advance. Democrats say, well, if you vote for us, we're going to give you welfare. Not if you vote for us, we're going to give you opportunity and chances. No, we're going to give you welfare. We're going to give you $800 a month. But if you make too much money, we're going to take away the $800 a month and you can just do it on your own. So if you stay poor and you stay under control, we'll take care of you as Democrats. Republicans are always like, we need to do what we can do to improve America. All Americans, all races, even the Democrats, we want to make it better for the Democrats. We want to make sure you have money. But instead of going through welfare programs, we want to create job programs. We want to create true wealth for you, teach you how to buy homes through first-time home buyer programs, teaching you how interest works. We want to do that for you as a community. But instead, the Democrats go, no, no, no. You don't want to be a survivor. You want to be a victim. See, our ancestors went through things. Our ancestors survived all of that. We are children of survivors, just like the Holocaust. When they say, oh, these are survivors of the Holocaust, they don't say they're victims of the Holocaust. No, they're survivors. Survivors are strong. Victims are weak. They want Black people to stay victims. They don't want us to be survivors of what our ancestors went through. They survived it. We're standing here as a true testament to the strength of who Black people are. You can't be a king, you can't be a queen and still be a victim at the same time. You're a survivor. Your generations went through something. Your ancestors went through something. And here you stand as a survivor of all of that, standing strong to fight for their name. Democrats don't want you to feel that way. They're taking down all these statues. They're calling you victim. Oh, you're a victim. You deserve compensation. That's attorney talk. If you're a victim, you deserve compensation. You're a victim. We deserve a chance to fight to get this money. We deserve a chance to fight to get equity in America. We deserve that chance. We are not victims sitting around, grown men crying and whining. Oh, can you give me money? I don't know how to do it. I need money. No, we don't do that. We go, okay, what do you need built? Okay, can I put in a bid for it? I'm gonna put in a bid for that. I got my team. We could probably build it for you. And we get the bid. We do the job. We give everybody training on how to do the project and we move on to the next project. That's how you survive. We're not victims. You keep voting Democrat if you want to. At some point, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna realize they've been putting a thumb on you for a long time, keep you on that plantation for a long time, making you believe you're a victim and not a survivor. When you change your mindset, you change your outcome, you change your path. We stand side by side with American citizens. We're trying to build this land still. We are the generations after our ancestors who were still building this land. We deserve a chance to keep building a home that we call home instead of them importing people. When they import people and replace us, what is that saying? Oh, Black people are just a bunch of victims. We need people strong, big people to come over here and work in America. We don't need a bunch of victims crying and whining all the time. We don't need that. But that's what Democrats want. They want you to vote for them. They want you to believe that you are like that because you are a sure vote each time. If they say, I'm going to start a program for you. Who's been getting paid off of these programs? Stacey Abrams started a program and guess what? They got $2 billion. It was a program that only had $100 in a bank account. They spent about $200,000 out of that $2 billion. And where'd the rest of the money go? They sat around saying, yeah, we got to pay salaries, wages, because this money ain't for Black people. The program is for Black people, but the money is for the elite Democrats. This is how they fund each other. This is how they move money around. When you see all of these people coming over here, been here for 20 years, 30 years, they're wealthy. They own 3 businesses. Their families, rich, wearing $1,500 glasses. You're like, y'all only been here for 30 years. I mean, you're younger than my kid. Y'all been here less time than my kid's been here. You only been for 30. How in the hell are you worth $3.2 million? You only been here for 30 years. My family been here for 400. And we ain't even worth $80,000. They're giving all of our money, the money slated for the Black community, the money slated to help Americans has been funneled to people who don't even like America. They can't stand America. USA was funding all of these places that didn't care about America. They were funding Iran. Now that we over there tearing down that regime who are truly kings, which makes no sense that we got no kings protests in America, but those same people protesting no kings in America are saying, leave the kings in Iran alone. Let them treat their people like that. Let Assad gas his own people over in Syria. Obama went and took care of that, didn't he? Nobody said no kings to Obama when he went over there and bombed Syria as they were gassing the people in Syria. Syrian government was gassing his own people. We took care of that. That's what we do as America. We free people. We liberate people. But yet when the Democrats come and they see Republicans liberating people, it reminds them of the Civil War, slavery, liberating Blacks. That's what it reminds them of. And they don't like that. See, Democrats want to be the savior. So they can say, hey, look, we did this for you guys. Vote for us. Keep us in power. Trump is a huge distraction. That's it. He is a distraction. They was loving the fact that Trump was, oh, we got Trump. Oh, let's put him under the hot seat. Trump, 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 Trump. Everything was Trump. When he turned the tables on them, they all don't want to say his name no more. They mentioned this man's name 34,000 times in files, but not a single time did they mention him was it in conjunction with the crime. Was it in, because if it was, don't you think they would probably have that crime already out in the media? You're mentioned 34,000 times and your name is not tied to one crime out of everything people said. You don't think that's odd? They're trying to paint a narrative and the narrative ain't working. When that USAID money dried up, the Democrats couldn't purchase media no more. You don't see a bunch of Democrats doing their rounds, going to different platforms like CNN and MSNBC. CNN done left Democrats alone because the Democrats aren't funding them no more. You know who's funding them? Advertisers. And who do advertisers deal with? People like me, the people who are Republicans, people who buy products, have money to buy products. That's who advertisers deal with. So if the Democrats ain't funding mass media anymore with the USAID money, the mass media is going to say, well, we need to survive. What do? Oh, we need ad revenue. Well, the people who we get ad revenue from aren't the Democrats because we were getting tax dollars from them. We need to start catering to Republicans now. Dang it, we got to start telling the truth now. Democrats can't keep using USAID money to purchase lies no more. Y'all got to understand, Trump was just a distraction. That's all it was. Americans deserve to know the truth. We want to know where our tax dollars are going. We want to know who's implicated in moving all of our money off seas, overseas, offshore. We want to know what Republicans or what Democrats and Republicans are becoming wealthy with our tax dollars when they were paid a salary. That's what we agreed on, to pay you a salary. But somehow you're getting kickbacks from all of these tax dollars and you're being worth negative $45,000 to now $30 million in a span of a few years. That's our money. We deserve to know that. If we're paying into a system, we deserve to know how this system operates. See, Trump was a distraction. They tried to throw Trump at us. Hey, Trump, hate Trump, y'all, hate him. He racist, he this, he that. But the true racists are the people not even giving us the money that was slated for us. The true racists are saying, we ain't worried about black people. All we need is their vote. We don't need to take care of them. You keep them poor, you keep them hungry, and you keep them hating racist Trump. That's all we care about. That plan is backfiring. Welcome back to the barbecue.
Okay, yeah, he's been missing. I was keeping an eye on him, and I got him on Telegram. I got a couple short ones.
Sit with us.
Oh, a little snug.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
One of the points I did want to hit, what you're hitting on,
is this guy good?
Important one, is the fact that this inactivity is by design. It's not by incompetence. I think there's a purpose.
No, I agree. It's intentional.
It's like they make people look stupid, but no, this is evil. They're purposely trying to throw this in a way that looks like, oh yeah, we're just not smart. Okay, so well, you are smart. We know you're smart. You wrote really good books, but now you're not acting in the manner in which you portrayed yourself, and I think that's troubling. So let me ask you that question then: do you think Trump sees what we see?
I always wonder, because he had a lot of opportunities. I know he offered Mike lots and lots of positions, and I understand with Mike's ongoing case, he made the decisions he made, and of course, I think he's got his own reasoning for it. I wouldn't make it public, things that he and I have discussed.
No, I know. I understand. I saw him just recently in Florida. So
yeah, and Roger, another one. Listen, Roger, I think he's the Jackie Collins of DC. He understands the dirt. He's been involved in multiple presidencies. He's extremely experienced. I expected to see him in the administration. There were choices that were made that I was uneasy about because I didn't know enough about it. I love Tom Homan. I like Tulsi Gabbard. I thought Kristi Noem was doing a good job. I don't think her personal family issues were impacting that. Of course, I understand why the administration did what they did because of what just came out, and we all saw it coming because there wasn't
The
any other.
Corey Lewandowski thing was problematic. That was starting to cause problems.
Yeah,
with leadership.
you know. But my thing is, it's weird. You know, it's strange. Unless we're talking about an issue like Swalwell and Fang Fang, right? People's personal relationships and their personal
I
choices.
tend to agree with you. No, I've seen it all. No, I've seen it all.
You know, and I guess I think if they could be blackmailed or compromised, then I think it matters. Personally, life choices. If somebody's doing a good job in their position, I have a different theory. When you've been forged in fire, I think a person that's been through the heat. I'll take a Mike Flynn who's been through the heat and didn't, and felt the other side of this, and now understands the depravity and the nefarious nature of what can happen when they decide to weaponize a system against you. I'll pick him over anybody else. If I got to go shoulder to shoulder, I'd rather have a guy that's already had to deal with the government coming after him. I don't care about felonies. I don't care about any of the rest of it. Because once you've been through that situation, you realize, it can be turned on you at any moment. And I'm sure you've been attacked. You're a truth teller.
No, as a whistleblower on 9/11, is like neither side were supporting us because we were calling out Bush folks and the Clinton folks because they were both involved. Just saying, it's like
anybody that understands demolition and understands structural demo would have to tell you that Building 7, it's impossible. What happened? I've had engineers.
We should do a whole thing on 9/11. Yeah, as a matter of fact,
Gage has been on my show. The architect that runs that group of 3,000.
Yeah, and I've had him on my show. Yeah. So another guy you ought to have on soon is Kurt Weldon, Congressman Kurt Weldon, who wrote a book. It's about to come out called Able Danger, which is the operation which I was part of that identified 2 of the 3 cells. And there's some things I'm trying to sit down with certain members of the government to have declassified because my role, believe it or not, to this day, my specific role in that operation is still beyond top secret. And that's all I can say about it at this point. But I can tell you, if we can declassify what my role was, it's going to put a whole different light on what happened. Just saying. So, but Kurt's going to be doing the book. It's going to be coming out in the fall. You ought to think about having Kurt on because
I'd love to have him on the show. I always love that the topics that everybody doesn't want to touch. That's kind of what we do on our show, whether it's health or otherwise. But look, here's the thing. It's obvious to you. It's obvious to me. And I always say common sense. Forget political. Forget about Democrats and Republicans. Don't worry about the David Copperfield. Actions speak louder than words. And common sense would tell you we have many people that could be easily charged if the laws were being applied the way they are on the books. There isn't any confusion here. And if anybody, I got to be honest, if tomorrow I was AG, and I'm not saying that I'm qualified, but if I was, my agreement would be, look, I don't want to, you're not going to keep a dog leash on me. If you tell me this is the job, it's going to happen. And I'm not going to, nobody in your administration, and I've heard some stories. I don't know if it's Susie Wiles. I don't know if it's others. I've heard all kinds of stories from lots of different people. But I would probably get fired because I wouldn't play nice. I'm not a nice guy.
Oh, no.
Not the way that I deal with things. And I wouldn't do it at this perspective. So if you hire me to do the job, if that's my title, it's going to be blood in the streets because I'm going to do it exactly the way that it's supposed to be done. If the law says something, you have to abide by the law.
So that's a new channel there. Oh, that one was all right. Our TikTok lady came out, 2.5.
Posted supposedly by President Trump. He did a live interview this morning. It was saying that he was not even intending for that to pretend that he was Jesus, not whatsoever. He was pretending that it was a Red Cross reference. He was healing people, like healing the land. As you know, President Trump is not boring, and he is very controversial, but he gets the job done. Now, before you start turning on the man.
She got some music on that one. Darn it. All right, we're going to play Auntie. 3 minutes under.
Well, there you have it. All of our suspicions have been proven to be true. And this is not a new thing. Don't get it twisted. This has been going on since the beginning of the elite, but it is all part of, well, the Great Reset. Whether it was HIV or the jabby jab, those who have known, well, we've known all along, and those who didn't know, it looks like they're starting to find out. What are you talking about, Auntie? Well, I could explain it to you, but let me just let the vice president do it herself. Check it out.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean.
Oops. Someone better take that mic away from her, and fast. Seems like old Kamala slipped up there, didn't she? Exposing a very, very, very large part of their plan. Didn't hear it the first time? Well, allow me to play it for you. Let me play it again, and a little louder for the people in the back. That's just a saying. There's no change in the volume, unless you change your own phone up. But here, check it out.
And reduce population, and reduce population, and reduce population.
And this is that point when all of us conspiracy theorists who have been saying this for I don't know how long, we politely look at all of those people who were naysayers and called us all crazy and say, you know what? I think I told you so. The elites have been trying to reduce population forever, finding so many ways and tactics, and many of those have unfortunately worked. Thank you, Mrs. Vice President, for confirming all of our suspicions and for proving all of us conspiracy theorists completely 100% right. They have been trying to reduce population now for quite some time. And if you ask me, that is absolutely, hands down, disgusting and sick. We are not numbers. We are people. We are mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, daughters and sons, and grandparents. We are not just people taking up too much space or eating too much food. We are human beings, and we are God's children, and we are not on this planet to be reduced just because it's all part of your
Okay, today's Auntie. We're going to play Billy Bean now. Wait a minute. We already played her, didn't we? Okay, did we play Billy Bean already? I don't think I played her yet. Hold on, guys. She came out 2 hours ago, okay? So it's 24 minutes. I got Q, but next.
See if a parent's service qualifies you for membership.
Raid!
Bugs hate Raid.
Welcome to Truth by Billy Bean, April 13, 2026, time in Texas, about 2 p.m. And thanks for like, subscribe, and share. Some of the things we'll cover today. President Trump is not Jesus. And President Trump extends the ceasefire. And we have the China, a member of their military, warning the U.S. China will use their military to unblock the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. military now controls the Strait of Hormuz. So let's get started. So we have this from Breitbart that President Trump, part of the reason for the U.S. blockading the Strait of Hormuz is to destroy the economy of both Iran and China, and that Iran technically has become a proxy for China. So what's going on with the Strait? Some people are confused. What is the U.S. military blockading? And we understand we have 15 U.S. ships now right at the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz, blockading only. So the blockade is only ships or tankers going to or from Iran ports. In other words, ships and tankers filling up Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, all the way up to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and so forth, are not being blocked by the U.S. military. And we saw Sunday, the U.S. military, 2 Arleigh class destroyers, the Peterson and the Murphy, passing through the Strait of Hormuz and then back out, demonstrating to the world that it is safe to pass through. What the U.S. military is now blocking is any ships going to and from Iran ports, especially Karg Island. And that would include Chinese ships and tankers. So now the Chinese are making public statements intimating that China will use its military to open the Strait of Hormuz to Chinese ships and tankers. So that's going on. And we have this from the Daily Mail. So we saw an AI-generated meme come out yesterday. Some interpreted as President Trump demonstrating himself to be Jesus Christ, but other interpreters are saying that, and President Trump himself says today that it was to depict President Trump as being a doctor. And from Daily Mail, an interpretation comes out that President Trump in the role of a doctor healing America, and that in the background we see U.S. fighter jets, U.S. military troops, the American flag, and over the President Trump meme, we see a creature with wings and 3 horns. Some are relating to Daniel chapter 7. Others believe that the meme was also a swipe at the Pope. So that's going on. From U.S. Intel, we have that the U.S. military, yes, has begun.
And we got Chris. Is it Christian? Christian? Yep, you're welcome. Yep, I've been on it since 2020 and have a lot of other channels and got over 1 million views and never giving up. Never give up. We're all in this together. We lost a lot of patriots, but we're all hanging in there. I like to ask what state people are from. I'm been in Michigan, grew up in Arizona, but my times are different now because there's so much intel. So I just come on when I can. But thanks. Let's be respectful. That's all I'm asking.
Blocking the Strait of Hormuz today, April 13, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, a few hours ago. But as I put forth, the U.S. military is only blocking ships and tankers going to and from Iranian ports, not other Middle Eastern nations. And we have that, the U.S. military begins their blockade, and other nations, supposedly today, the European pukes are holding a 40-nation summit. Yeah, we're going to put together a group, and their job is to go down there and open the Strait of Hormuz and, safeguard it for world use. And we're going to do that just as soon as the U.S. does the same. So after the U.S. acts, we'll get together and act. It'll be a great opportunity for photos. Okay, Europe, shut up.
Oh, okay.
And we have this. We have that from Times of India. So we have President Trump has sent a strong message, we understand, to Bibi Netanyahu. I believe this was likely sent yesterday, that the U.S. will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. From U.S. Intel, we have that President Trump considers striking Iran prior to the end of the current ceasefire. We know it was to last 2 weeks, but we're hearing that President Trump has extended the ceasefire.
Hey, Kev.
And we have that the U.S. is saying to Iran they do not control the Strait of Hormuz. No, it appears the U.S. is in control. So the President Trump meme, I can say this, whoever put that AI-generated meme out trying to show President Trump as a doctor healing America demonstrates to me a catastrophic ignorance of the Christian religion. It is not good. I believe President Trump should take that down. And we have this. We have from the White House, so we know over the weekend there was 21 hours of talks Saturday, beginning at dawn Saturday and lasting until the early hours of Sunday morning. And then we saw Vice President Vance come out in Pakistan and make a public statement on behalf of the White House that no agreement was reached. And then President Trump, after that, came out with his statement that the U.S. military would blockade the Strait of Hormuz only against ships and tankers going to and from Iranian ports. From U.S. Intel, President Trump will extend the ceasefire until April 27. And now we're hearing public statements coming out from China, because this U.S. blockade on Iran, they can't sell their oil, and they also can't receive weapons-laden ships from China, is a devastating economic blow to both Iran and China. So now we have a statement coming out from the Chinese Minister of Defense, Dong Jun, that China is committed to peace and that they will continue to monitor what's going on at the Strait of Hormuz, and that if Chinese ships and tankers are blocked, then China may bring in their military to, we would speculate, then in a standoff against the U.S. military to control the Strait of Hormuz. But China's Minister of Defense did make that public statement today that China is monitoring the Middle East, and China may bring in its military to escort its ships in and out of Iran. And hey, what about the U.S. military blockade China? So yeah, that is being set up. And we have this.
Your upgrade is ready, Miss Langley.
My upgrade?
Yes, enjoy.
See y'all later.
Experience the sounds of Nashville with Chase Sapphire Reserve.
Do you support Israel and the Jewish people? Now, more than ever, Israel needs committed.
China also expresses that others should not meddle in Chinese affairs. And China says Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, and it is open for China. And China warns the U.S. not to blockade Chinese ships or tankers or face the Chinese military. So we do have that going on. We do have the Chinese Minister of Defense today making public statements regarding the Chinese military facing off against the U.S. military. And we have this from Borzikman. Now, Borzikman on YouTube is, I believe, Russian propaganda. Occasionally, they do put out something that appears to me to be Russian intel. They also put out sometimes truth, but they do put out propaganda. And they're saying that, so Borzikman is saying that Iran has U.S. Military POWs. Iran is holding 10 U.S. citizens and several U.S. military that were captured in Iraq, with one U.S. military soldier captured on the Karg Island. This is possibly an example of Russian intel, and it possibly could be true. I don't have any other sources for that. And we have this. We have the IRGC, we know, was in Pakistan over the weekend for talks with the U.S. And we see Israel continuing today, Monday, to hit Hezbollah and the Houthis, who are proxies for Iran. And it's now being put forth by many analysts who believe that Iran is a proxy for China. And we're hearing whispers that the European nations, the UK and France, are going to join with the IRGC against the US blockade. I believe that is not true. And we have this, that the US controls the Strait of Hormuz, and that CENTCOM is sending out messages to ships in the Persian Gulf and in the Persian Gulf who want to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. So the U.S. military is sending messages that the ships should be on standby, and that CENTCOM blockade is only for ships and tankers going to and from Iranian ports. And we have this. The U.S. Navy is communicating with ships in the Persian Gulf on Channel 16. And again, indicating to these ships that the U.S. military is only blockading ships and tankers going to and from Iranian ports. Other ships and tankers from other nations, the U.S. will allow to pass, but will check. So I'm assuming that means the U.S. military will board
9 minutes.
ships. And we have from other nations, in addition to, so the U.S. military is going to totally block ships and tankers going to and from Iranian ports. Other ships passing through from the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, going in, going out, and going in, the U.S. military will allow them to pass, but first, the U.S. military will board them and check. I'm assuming the U.S. wants to check for, contraband, but weapons. So that's going on. And we know that CENTCOM has announced they've sank Iran's Navy, 158 Navy ships, and up to half of their fast attack boats, but they still have some. President Trump reiterates that if Iran's fast attack boats get out in the Strait of Hormuz, they will be sank. And we have this. Yeah, the U.S. military continues overnight, Sunday night, today's Monday, to prep for what appears to be the second wave by the U.S. on Iran militarily, moving all night long last night from Europe to the Middle East, troops and more equipment. And we have statements coming out from the UK Starmer and France's leader Macron that sound they said the statements they're making, the leaders of the UK and France, sound as if Europe will take control of the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf, and for the U.S. to stand down. However, more clarification has come out. Europe is simply having a meeting, and they will take control of the Persian Gulf as soon as the U.S. Is finished in this area. So as soon as the U.S. wins the war, the European pukes want to come in and say, oh, we did all this. Shut up, Starmer and Macron. Yeah, so that's going on. And we have this. So we have...
Glad you made it.
Now, Turkey, Erdogan, this is U.S. intel, that Erdogan of Turkey has made a public statement that Turkey is going to join with Iran against Israel. So I got this to say to Erdogan, shut up. And we know that Erdogan historically comes out and makes statements this and that, and nothing ever.
Okay. Shut up. And guess what? We got your favorite, Captain Kyle.
Comes from it. And we have inside Iran, IRGC judge. Yeah, they're arresting people all over Iran, claiming that they are spies for the U.S. or Israel. They have 5-minute trials. Then they're sentenced to immediate death and execution. Yeah. We have this. So this afternoon, Monday afternoon, reports are coming out that U.S. jets are over Iraq, and that we have 15 plus warships blocking the Strait of Hormuz. And today, on Iranian TV,
Let's face it, most of us aren't going to set foot on Mars.
I'm on Mars! It's freezing. I'm going to go back to the module.
Some things are out of reach.
We have.
Just a reminder, you guys, on the first show, we played Mel and Holly. It was 38 minutes, and we had Nick Shirley. Was it interesting? That was 15 minutes. A bunch of other good ones. We had a big show this afternoon.
The IRGC spokesperson come out and say it's illegal under international law to block the Strait of Hormuz. So the U.S. military needs to stop. So, I mean, we've been seeing Iran doing this. I guess when Iran does it, it's okay. But when the U.S. does it, it's illegal under international law. Iran, shut up. And we have this from Epic Times. This is very interesting. On Lay's Real Talk, she interviewed a host from Epic Times, American thought leaders, who's written a book, Order to Kill. And I've covered this in some recent videos about China's organ harvesting. It's been known and talked about for years. Now it's being put forth on a basis where there is substantial evidence. We also have in the U.S. Congress 2 bills aimed at bringing forward knowledge about China's Order to Kill organ harvesting program. So the way it works is China sends doctors and nurses to the U.S. to learn how to do organ transplants. Then they take them back to China. China has a full-scale industrialized killing machine to produce organ harvesting so that if someone anywhere in the world needs a certain organ, and they have a certain blood type and tissue, DNA, the CCP already has a list of potential donors. Then they go and kill the person and harvest their organs, and then ship them out wherever they're to go in the world. They also, in recent years, have begun also cataloging Chinese children via the school system.
Just in a couple minutes here.
And as part of China's government-sponsored program to regenerate youth and adults, requires certain organs and certain fluids from children. So China, through their school system, has cataloged Chinese children, and if a need comes in for an elite member, because this costs millions of dollars, China goes to the school, disappears the child, and kills them and harvests their body. And if the parents of the child are trying to find the child, China has a malicious term for them as malicious parents or something like that. So, yeah, but my point with this is I believe, and this individual's book, Order to Kill, is on Amazon. I understand it's a bestseller. And he has evidence in his book going back to early 2000s. I've known about it for years. I believe it's in effect, but now I have a different perspective. We now learn that we have 500,000 relatives of the CCP living inside the U.S., and it's my perspective that the CCP is now in America to also catalog American citizens and American children, to add to their database for potential organ harvesting list. So, yeah, I believe that's very valid. I believe the U.S. government needs to actively and immediately get out of America. All of the CCP relatives in America, 500,000, we understand, and also the relatives of the IRGC in America, we understand about 5,000. President Trump, it would appear that this group of foreigners poses a clear and present danger to American citizens and to American children. So this concludes my update. It's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, finally we're getting Billy Bean again. So I got a few short ones before we get to Captain Kyle, and we got a Benny still to get. A lot of intel. Okay, finally go. This one not sure of. 3 minutes.
We've been taught that the sun is dangerous, to avoid it, to cover up, to fear that it's too bright. But the truth, the sun is one of the most powerful healing forces on earth. It doesn't just warm you, it codes you. The sunlight regulates your hormones, resets your nervous system, strengthens your immune defenses. It tells the body what time it is, so it can heal, repair, and rest. It wakes up your mitochondria, the energy centers in your cells. When you receive natural light, your body doesn't just feel better, it remembers how to be well. But beyond the physical, the sun is a transmitter, a living portal of rhythm, radiance, and remembrance. Its light carries intelligence, photons that speak to your DNA, waves that whisper to your field. It is safe to come back online now. And if
How's
you
this one
ever
now,
felt
you guys?
tired after being in the sun all day, it's not weakness, it's not sun poisoning, it's saturation. Too much light, too fast, without grounding. Your system wasn't broken, it was overwhelmed. You received more data, heat, codes, and truth than your body could process all at once.
Okay, we got a new person in chat here. Another one. Unfilter. Welcome. You must know Kay. So we got a couple new ones in here tonight. Thanks. And we'd like to know what state you're from. And we've been on it in 2020. I don't know how long you've been following me. But just be respectful all I'm asking. Thank you. And hope you like the channel. My times are different every day now because we got so much intel coming out.
And that's why we need a ritual, not just exposure. You don't need to hide from the sun. You need to meet it in a relationship. Start your day grounded,
Washington. Oh, okay.
barefoot, open, intentional. Let the morning light calibrate your rhythm. By midday, protect your crown, not from fear, but from honor. Hydrate not just with water, but with minerals, salt, earth, support. And when the sun begins to lower, return to stillness. Place your feet on the soil. Let the earth help you integrate what the sun gave you. Because the sun isn't a fire, it's a forge. It doesn't burn to punish, it burns to refine. It reveals what's ready. It awakens what's been asleep.
An interesting one,
You're not here to hide from the light. You're here to carry it, to wield it, to let it shape you until you shine with the remembrance of who you've always been.
Interesting. Okay, we got a 5-minute one I just found, you guys, about taxes. Oh wait, we'll do this one 3-minute one, then one with the taxes.
Today, in the fraud committee, the Department of Human Services testified that they haven't been tracking the IP addresses of money that's being literally flown out of our state and where it's going. They did turn on that reporting for 2 weeks, and they found that, yes, a lot of those IP addresses were tied to overseas computers. And then they quickly shut it off after just 2 weeks of seeing where this money is actually going. It's crazy, but listen for yourself.
DHS billed or paid these daycares through, I believe it was the MEC squared billing system. And we discovered when we wanted to find out who was billing and where they were billing from, that the MEC squared system was not designed to include IP numbers. It's a major oversight. It'd be like buying a brand new car that didn't have brakes. It's a basic in computer systems. You ask any computer person out there, your home router has IP address tracking on it. This system did not. So that told us we weren't able to tell who was billing, when they were billing, or where they were billing from. So Jay and I went to Minute, the state's T department, and we said, look, we had this is the email, it was part I just read to you. We said, we need these IP addresses. Well, we don't really have that, and it's impossible to do that. We need to do that. So after some negotiating, a gentleman over there, a very smart person, set up a temporary IP trap. And he had it took him a while, but he was able to trap the IP numbers. And he saw people from Japan logging into our state system to bill for CCAT. And that's all documented. And the evidence is at the DHS lab, and Bennett probably has evidence of it. So that case, because we suspected that lady had ties to terrorism, we could only get her on wire fraud. We couldn't get her on anything more from that because the system wasn't designed to detect fraud.
Thank you. So do you know if the DHS system, that temporary trap was only, I think, up from my reading a couple weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So does DHS now have the capability to track IP addresses?
I do not know. I don't know. By the time I left, I was told no. But what's happened in the last 7 to 8 years, I don't know.
So why would the system be set up without that ability when it's kind of standard on most computers?
I would be hesitant to give an answer to that.
Okay, Minnesota. This one is taxes video, 4 minutes, and then we'll get Captain Kyle.
And pay their appropriate amount of taxes. So I really think enforcement is a reward to those who voluntarily comply. And I think if the public does not see that the IRS is enforcing the laws, we're going to be at risk of losing people continuing to voluntarily comply.
Okay, so I want to explain this. How could taxation be voluntary for some and mandatory for others? Allow me to explain. As we can see here, right here in the tax return forms and instructions, it clearly states that the tax system is based on voluntary compliance. What does that mean? And if you go to the IRS website, look at their criminal investigation reports every single year and go search for the word voluntary. And you'll see they'll tell you compliance with the tax laws in the United States depends heavily on taxpayer self-assessment of the amount of tax, voluntary filing of tax returns, and remittance of any tax owed. This is frequently termed voluntary compliance. Once again, the integrity of our tax system depends heavily on taxpayers' willingness to self-assess taxes owed and voluntarily file tax returns. Now, I don't want to overwhelm with information, but there's no such thing as an income tax, really. Everything you pay to the IRS is considered as a gift or bequest to or for the use of the United States. And if you dive deep into the law, you'll see that this is printed over and over and over and over because they have to properly disclose that everything you think you pay in income tax is a gift or bequest, and a gift does not need to be returned. Now, why does our tax system depend so heavily on taxpayers self-assessing the amount of tax that they owe? Because all along, you've been allowed to report all your income on your taxes, but declare it as non-taxable. So this is a Federal Reserve note. This is America's default currency. We all use this, we get paid in this, and when we buy groceries or gifts for family, this is the type of money that we use. And think about it. Since this bank, the Federal Reserve, prints this currency, they make your life easier, right? They do, and they know that. So at the end of the year, they charge everybody a service fee or convenience fee for using the bills that they print. That convenience fee is called income tax. Every Federal Reserve note that gets printed into circulation becomes an obligation of the US government to pay back directly to the Federal Reserve Bank, which is a private corporation. And Uncle Sam passes the bill to us. Paying off this national debt to these Federal Reserve bankers is the sole and only reason why we have an income tax. Now, this is 100% legal, and rich people do this every year. You're actually allowed to opt out of having to pay the service fee by demanding that your income be treated as United States notes, the older kind of money that used to be in circulation until the 70s. This may sound a little bit complicated, but by default, our money is taxable because it's Federal Reserve currency. You actually have a choice every single year when you file your taxes to demand that your income be treated as non-taxable notes issued by the US Treasury. So this is what makes taxation voluntary, because all along you could have
How's
been
this
filing your
one, guys?
taxes, reporting your income as taxable, like 99.99% of uninformed Americans do, or you can declare your income as non-taxable, like the 1% do. Both of these are legal. The IRS will accept either tax return, but they want you to report your income, calculate what you owe, and pay what your bill says. You can simply use 12 USC 411 to have a $0 tax bill every single year. Now, this process works, and I'm telling you it works because I went through it as a client. When I did this process, I had $8,351 that came out of my pay during the year. When I filed my taxes with this process, I didn't just get back that $8,300. I actually got back $8,516, more than I ever paid into the tax system. I actually got paid a bonus in interest, an extra $160, because I'm not a taxpayer. I'm tax exempt. All that money that I gave to these people was a loan. And when you file with this process, you call that loan in due, you get 100% of your money refunded. If you don't get 100%, you'll probably get something like I did, 102% refund. Now, you can do the same thing. Being tax exempt is not just for the rich and the wealthy. I'm a regular person who used this process. Go to Taxpayer Shutdown 2025, watch the full video, register for the live workshop every Thursday, get all your questions answered. These people have CPAs that'll file your taxes for you with this tax exemption process. I'm only telling you this works because I'm someone who did it as a client, and I want people to know that this is the right way to do it.
We rely on voluntary compliance for our tax system, but we have systematically undercut the ability of the IRS to deal with voluntary compliance.
Yeah, I just saw that one on Telegram. Hey, Captain Kyle. $15 minutes.
The extortion racket got drug out into the full light. And our president knew exactly what he was doing this whole time, where people are like, oh my gosh, who talked him into this? And we're going to war with an unwinnable war, and that Bibi or some. This has been planned. This has been a exposure and a preparation for a long time. Not, oh, he just fell into something. Not even close. And so the situation with the Strait of Hormuz, where the oil and gas, basically, who benefits from that oil and gas that comes from there? Well, the IRGC mostly, because they're selling their illegal or their sanctioned oil cheaply to China and the European nations, and mostly Britain and India, Australia, which is a Commonwealth. And when you look at the circumstances, who's being choked off by the extortion racket that was actually being pushed out onto the entire world? It sure as hell ain't the United States. Yeah, now we are suffering as far as paying some higher prices and stuff like that, but we're not in any kind of shortage or having any kind of threats at all. We're only being manipulated by the oil buyers and the markets, because they're being manipulated based off of the control of the strait. And that's been going on for decades. And this has always been their plan. This has always been their manipulation of controlling the energy markets and profiting from it. It's a global freaking racket that the British Crown has been pretty much running the whole damn thing, and using Lloyd's of London to insure and manipulate that market, and they were profiting from that too. And they've traced the money going through Dubai, London, and in Zurich. So that's all being cut off. And this whole time, the IRGC was basically closing the strait, trying to put pressure on the United States by causing all these other countries to put pressure on the United States. This external pressure as well as internal pressure, all of these quacks here in the United States that don't realize what the hell's going on, and basically taking away that control. Well, we started with this whole thing with making our country back energy independent and to be not manipulated or controlled through our energy anymore. Then we went through and dealt with the Panama Canal and China's influence that they had there and got them kicked out, took back over the control of the Panama Strait. That was the first thing. And then from there, dealing with Venezuela, Mexico, and Cuba, that's pretty much taken away the amount of energy that was going to the CCP, because Venezuela, that's where they were sending their sanctioned oil to at a very reduced price. And now Iran was sending their oil there as well. And now they don't have any oil. And what people aren't reporting at all is what's going on in China right now and how bad it is there. They've got 9 provinces that are completely out of control because of how bad things are there, not having fuel and being completely on the verge of collapse. Their military, it would have to be worse than what happened with the 45,000 that Iran did on trying to kill. That would be worse what they would have to do in China to try to get back control of these provinces. But nobody's talking about that anywhere on any platform, about how bad it is in China and who's really suffering. But then we go to look at what's going on in the UK and the European nations. Did you know that UK actually has between 7 and 9 days worth of jet fuel left right now? They're in a bad place, and they put themselves there on purpose because they were always using this illegal regime, this terroristic regime, to always be able to get their energy from as a backup, and being able to control the manipulation of the prices and stuff through the Strait of Hormuz with them. And today at 10 a.m., that got trumped. But we positioned ourselves by Venezuela and getting all that oil, but also ramping up our production here back in the United States to where now we're saying, come, you can get as much of the oil and gas that you need right here from the Gulf of Americas, coming right here to Texas. Yes. Over 112 super tankers are on their way right now en route to Texas to fill up. That would normally be filling up there. But in that, the delay that this has caused is months away from them being able to get what they need and to get back on their footing, because they put themselves in this green energy scam for so long. And now that it's been exposed to that it isn't worth a shit,
7 minutes.
They don't have their sanctioned oil or energy that they can just bring in, because they don't produce shit. These countries don't produce it. And they've been relying on these other places to produce, while they have cut all that production away from their own self, just like UK. They have BP. BP was giant, and they had so much production. They've cut down all of their production. They have cut their own throats by pushing these socialistic and Marxist agendas, that now it's all been exposed. And the people are seeing exactly that, because they're suffering. And what's coming now is that these blackouts, because of the energy that they're getting shorted, that they don't have, because they don't produce it. They didn't put themselves in a position to be able to be energy independent, relying on these other terroristic proxies and stuff like that, that now they don't have that. And their little green energy project ain't going to cut it. Not even close. They can't keep their fuel stations full. They can't keep their vehicles. It is about to get very bad. And they have, where there's about to be some serious unrest in the streets and the European nations. UK, they're already modeling it right now that unrest is coming. It's about to get really bad, people. And they brought that on themselves, and we're exposing it. It's coming to the full light. These corrupt organizations and entities that have been controlling and manipulating the world are being drug out into the light so the people can see them. And there is nothing that they can do to stop what's coming. Yes, we are dealing with the consequences of dealing with that, but we all have to have skin in the game. I have all kinds of issues that I'm going through myself. I feel a lot of the time I can't sleep. I'm having, energy issues. I'm feeling that my cup is empty, and that I just can't seem to get myself motivated to go forward. And financial problems as well that are, come out of nowhere and just attack. And it's never ending. I feel your pain, because I'm going through it too in my own manner. But I also know that this is the end game, and that we have to go through this to get to the other side. And God is in control of it all. And every single day I get up and I try to set my intentions, and I try to move forward. And I do those things every single day in the best of my ability. And then I turn the rest of it over to God and allow Him to bring forth everything else that I need. Because there's only so much I can do, only so much you can do. But one thing you can do is to stand strong in your truth that God is in control. And no matter what happens, you're eternal and the best is yet to come, no matter what. They can't stop it. All this noise, all this distraction, and all of these difficulties are all a part of making us remember who we are, but also that we will never forget what we went through for where we are going. Always remember that. And it's not just you. You're not the only one going through this. We all are. And I have compassion for each and every one of you because I go through these things myself every day. I don't talk about them, but I do. With my wife, with my family, with my finances, with my mother and father-in-law. All of these are real, and that I can't just put my head in the sand and not acknowledge the fact that they're real issues. I just pull my boots on every single day and pull my bootstraps up, and I go through my day knowing that one day it will all be worth it. God is in complete control here. And I can tell you right now that it seems like that there's a lot of people that are confused about what's going on and about how this is all playing out. But it's about exposing Britain and the imperialistic monopoly and control that they have had on the entire world. Because London was the finance, they were the money part of this. The United States was always the military, and the Vatican was the boss of it all and was the spiritual side of everything. And so with Trump attacking the Pope, that was attacking the other part of the bullshit. Because that's exactly what the Pope has been, is the mob boss of it all. Finance, money, that manipulation and control, Lloyd's of London, and through the London financial bankers. United States was always the military aspect, the control, and the financier, the money that was stolen from all of us and all of our finances to pay for all of their so-called bullshit projects and all of their ideologies and all their crazy town shit. Well, that's all coming to an end. And when it does completely, all of that prosperity and all of that wonderful thing that you thought you were building your life towards will actually become real.
Okay, that was the latest on Captain Kyle. We got the judge on Newsmax, 5 minutes.
Besides those mobs, which I don't blame you for, it feels safer in this town.
Oh, thank you. You know, it is a joint effort, and between the president's decision to pour resources into D.C. and the coordination between the local and the federal agencies, and the fact that my office, we've changed our policy. We're going forward on all the arrests other than 10% of the arrests to make sure that people are accountable. And, it's tough. It's been very tough, this surge on the prosecutors in my office. We work around the clock, but I think it makes a difference. It's palpable. The streets were not safe. You had the 4th highest murder rate in the country 2 years ago. I mean, think of that. This is the nation's capital.
Even the road that I drove down until actually you came to town is that I drive down a main thoroughfare, and it was at, one of my shows at 6 and 7 o'clock at night. You look because you're worried about carjackers.
Yeah, it's carjackers and kids with guns and, all kinds of hoopla that's going on where kids feel emboldened. They're not at all threatened. They don't see consequences. And it's like the Wild West. It really is. And I'm from New York, Greta. I mean, as are you. But I mean, think about it.
I'm Wisconsin. I'm a cheesehead.
Huh?
I'm from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I knew you'd go there. But we spent a lot of our professional years in New York.
So what's with these mobs? And how do you? These are juveniles, which puts in a whole different category. The law is different for juveniles and adults. How can you possibly? What are you going to do about this? What's the answer?
Well, I'll tell you what I want to do about it. And I've been doing it since the day I got into D.C. We've got adult crime down. I mean, whether it's robberies, burglaries, whether it's homicides, everything is down exponentially since the surge. But the only thing that hasn't changed is youth crime. And there is this mentality that the D.C. Council has that these kids need to be coddled. They need to be protected. They shouldn't be brought into the criminal justice system. You and I both know, Greta, we come from states where kids are responsible legally 16, 17, 18. And here in D.C., it's not until they're 18 unless it's Title 16.
Well, some of these crimes are being committed by 15, 14, and 13. There was one case before you got here where I think it was 5 girls, and the oldest one was 15, kicked some poor guy to death.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I said we've got to lower the age of accountability. Who can do that? The D.C. Council. They don't want to do it. These bozos on the D.C. Council, most of them, they don't even want to allow for a discretionary curfew during the week the kids are on vacation.
What's with that curfew to expire in 2 days?
Well, it's expiring. They voted 9 to 4 to put it off until after the school vacation.
What's their objection to it?
You're going to have to put them in this seat and ask them, because everyone in this city is entitled to a safe city, the ability to live in quiet enjoyment. The businesses should be entitled to not worry about kids overrunning the neighborhood, about a stampede that gets out of control, about whatever these kids are doing. They're fighting. We've got a fray where it's called mutual combat, where there is a sexual assault. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, it's funny. I mean, you and I come from different sides of the aisle in terms of you were a prosecutor, I was a defense attorney, and I played that tape last week of you talking about a guy who got 29 years, and he's, I think, 21 years old or something. And at the end, it struck me when I played it, because I've known you for years, you said, what a waste. And I thought, I could sort of feel that, that you felt the sensitivity, like it really is so tragic that some of these young people, we can't let them do terrible things, but 29 years and, what do you do?
You really sensed me very well. That's because you know me very well, Greta. When I see these young kids who are allowed from the time they're 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 to commit these outrageous crimes, I get them when they're 18, they commit a murder. I'm into 30 years at this point. This is a murder. You took a life. And yet there was no intervention. The family court and the Office of the Attorney General, their focus is not deterrence, it's not punishment, it's not retribution, it's rehabilitation. They are not rehabilitating. So give these kids and me a chance where I can say to them, you know what, there's a consequence here. That doesn't mean I can't rehabilitate them. Of course I can. But get them into the criminal justice system sooner so they don't do it. Carjacking, then an armed carjacking, then an assault, and then a robbery, and then an armed robbery. I mean, let them know that they're going to get stopped. And it's not happening here.
You can tell that you are relatively new to the town. You call them Attorney General. And has probably been an Attorney General for a long time. We used to call it Corporation Counsel. And they did virtually nothing to sort of help these kids then. The only change I could see is they got a new name. It went from being called Corporation Counsel to being called Attorney General. But there was nothing for these kids.
Yeah. And unfortunately, these kids, let's talk about a curfew. The kids get arrested. and they go to a special, it's like our C10 in the criminal part. They go to a special section. It's called, I think it's JM15, and they basically are not released unless a parent or guardian picks them up. And if they don't come and pick them up, then somebody from Division of Family and Children's Services comes to get them. Okay, so there is some recognition that parents should be involved. They've got to be more involved. But the truth is, with the DC Council giving free reign, these kids go to the family court, they go to youth, the yoga or some kind of ice cream social. They're let go, and that's the end of it.
Well, what about, I mean, like these 5 girls that kicked this poor guy to death? I mean, and they were out latest after midnight. I don't know if there's a curfew then or not. But what about, I mean, is there any sort of, the parents aren't doing anything. I mean, and how do you hold the parents? I mean, the parents could be your intervention in some ways, but parents, there's no law. I mean, some states you're seeing parents being prosecuted. You're seeing more and more of that, like where they give the kid a gun knowing the kid's got, anger issues.
Yeah, you see, that's a little clearer case. You and I have been, tackling this issue for many years. How responsible should parents be for young kids who commit crimes? If you give your kid a gun and you know that kid is going to use the gun, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, there's accessorial conduct there, and you should be liable.
8 and a better.
Yeah.
8 and a better.
Yeah, you're an 8 or better. So, but the problem now is that a lot of these parents are not around. They come from a dysfunctional family, so there's no one to keep these kids together. And if we're relying on family court and thinking that they're going to rehabilitate them, they're not. And the proof is in the pudding, because when I get them, they've got all kinds of records like this, and no one's done a damn thing.
If you could have a magic wand for one law to create in this city to help you, what do you need?
I would lower the age of accountability. I would lower it 14, 15, 16, and 17. I could graduate it in terms of the crime, but I've got to have 16 and 17-year-olds subject to my jurisdiction, or else the city goes to hell, no matter what we do with the adults. Wait until this summer, Greta. It's only going to get worse.
U.S. Attorney Janine Pirot for the District of Columbia, my old friend.
Hey, the latest on the judge. React Q coming up. And a couple bitty videos.
Made the most sense for our family, and it just offered the most flexibility. I could save time.
What's up, family? Welcome back to Out of the Darkness. I am Q. So I'm going to need y'all to chill. Take a chill pill. Just a second. Let me finish my complete thought before y'all come for me. Some of y'all will still come for me, but that's okay. Just let me get it out. So I posted a picture for discussion this morning on our board for the channel. And we've all been hearing since last night about this photo that Donald Trump put up depicting himself as what would seem like Jesus Christ, with healing power or light coming from his hands, where we would assume that the nails would have been. In addition to that, seeing him lay hands on someone in their deathbed who is sick. And immediately my wife says, "Did you see this?" And I looked at it. And so I generally immediately give Trump the benefit of the doubt. I said, I don't know. I need to make sure this was actually his account, because I've seen a lot of things that people got up in arms about that wasn't his account. And turns out, went to Truth Social, it was his account. And I thought, well, surely he didn't post it. Someone else in his organization must have posted it. And no, Donald Trump posted it himself. And I'm running out of excuses here. And so then people say that wasn't supposed to be Jesus. It was supposed to be the Pope, in response to last night, him going off on the Pope. Well, no, that wasn't it either. So Donald Trump was approached, and some people thought, oh, yeah, that was the other one. Other people said, he's just trolling. He's trolling. Well, people asked Donald Trump, the news people asked him from the fake news media and some of the other news sources, What was that supposed to be? Was that supposed to be Jesus? And Donald Trump says, I don't know what everybody's upset about. I thought it was a doctor portraying me as a doctor and making people feel better. I make people feel better. And so I thought it was me being portrayed as a doctor. Now, in this particular situation, I would have rather Donald Trump not say anything or completely own it. But come on now. Not even I can defend this one. A doctor in a robe, in a white robe with a scarlet scarf or sash. I mean, just about every picture of Jesus that we've seen has shown Trump this way. And of course, on the heels of Paula White, his spiritual advisor, Pastor Paula White, essentially saying that Trump is Jesus-like figure today, and that Donald Trump is Jesus of our time. You can go and watch this whole address that she made. It's not a good look. And so therefore, I'm not going to attempt to apologize for him. I'm not going to make excuses. It is what it is. Donald Trump is not a Christian. He has claimed to not be a Christian. Even when he spoke at Charlie Kirk's funeral, he said Charlie Kirk's God. And when asked, Donald Trump says he doesn't think he's going to heaven. He says, I don't think that I'm going there. And so he was very honest about that. If a person is telling me that they do not believe that they are going to heaven, that tells me that they are not a Christian. So was this sacrilegious? Hey, you guys tell me, but I'm not going to attempt to make it any type of a judgment call. I think it was silly. I don't think it was a good idea. But what do you guys think about this? Comment below. This should actually.
Make sure you watch the first show today. We had a good one. So was this was that the photo what Q was talking about, you guys? Okay, let me know.
For centuries, civilization believed it was governed by nations.
I think we played that one. Let me know if you guys want to listen to this one. 14 minutes.
Wants to be France first, or Uganda be Uganda first. Look after yourselves. And everybody went, well, that sounds all right. I'm happy with that. But what's the problem? Why are we not? Why are those nations not in that position? Because they're controlled, and we'll get to the controlling aspect in a minute and the techniques very shortly. So forgive me if I wax lyrical just for a little bit. What are the problems? If you had to pick 5 problems that are preventing nations from becoming self-reliant, which is anathema.
You guys want to listen to this one?
The last thing they want are self-reliant, independent nations, and they will do everything to destroy it. And that's why they're doing this to the US. But what the controllers of the planet do is they ensure political instability, they ensure poverty, They ensure drug cartels and armed groups, right? Law and order issues. Failing infrastructure and a deficient healthcare system, whether it's private or public, makes no difference. So as long as you can keep that problem running in each of these countries, they will never become self-reliant. Now, why do they not want them to be self-reliant? Because the people that run the planet is not us. Never has been until DJ Team. It would never look like it was going to be. Let's just go back in history. The British East India Company, in just 1 year, had a greater global revenue than, say, Ford and General Motors profits in 1970.
Okay.
And this is going back in time. The British East India Company. Now, for those that need a refresher on the history, these companies were set up, they were sent overseas as corporations, and the spice trade was amazing. So that's it kicked off as a legitimate enterprise to create wealth through providing a good or a service. Okay, and so these companies were set up, but they figured out it was a lot easier to make money. And I want you to think of a gang of pimps and drug dealers. That's all they are. That's all Great Britain became. And so what they did was they got opium. They took it to Kew Gardens in London, got the best opium there. Took it to India, where they could, where the tea manufacturers could turn their hand to optimizing the product of poppies, and then they sold it to China, and that was called, that was the Opium War, and they just stuck it in. And so Great Britain became, if it ever was anything other than slave masters, and they, 2 cheers for Great Britain, if not 3, but they started doing that, and they just became a bunch of pimps. So they're not particularly clever in terms of business. They're just pimps and drug pushers. That's all they were for the longest possible time. And so here we go. We have the British Empire. Now, the British East India Company was run by 300 people. They what's the word? They obeyed no borders. They obeyed no laws. They respect no boundaries. Now, here's a jump for you for everybody to understand the structure of this. The descendants of the 300 that ran the East India Company now comprise the Committee of 300 that run the world. And like their forebears, they respect no boundaries, they respect no laws.
Okay.
They approve everything. And as a sideline, when Gorbachev went to the US after the collapse of the Soviet Union and he set up his institute, he actually said live on TV, and this has been approved by the Committee of 300. Now, that clip has evaporated. That's how powerful this Committee of 300 is. Now, I mention it because unless you understand the Committee of 300, and I've been working my way up in terms of talking about who's running the planet, the Masonic filth have captured an absolute bunch of my time because they're the heavy lifters. They're the morons on the ground that do the work, right? But now the people of the earth need to, certainly I'm trying to spread the word in Oz. You've got to read Dr. John Coleman's book on the Committee of 300. He gives you chapter and verse of exactly what's going on. And if you're going to be shocked, it's a great book. It's the best espionage war thriller you can imagine, and it's all real. So if you like a good read, if you like Robert Ludlum, you like, the Bourne series and the rest of it, this makes that look like kindergarten stuff. So the Committee of 300, they run the planet. They select U.S. Secretaries of State. Henry Kissinger was selected, or all U.S. Secretaries of State are selected by the Committee 300. Jimmy Carter was selected as president because he'd had 3 mental breakdowns. He couldn't resist criticism and rejection. So they got a psychologically weak individual to be president so he could be persuaded of everything and anything. So the Committee 300, they select. Kissinger threatened the Italian prime minister and eventually had him killed. The Committee 300's representative through their various agencies like the Club of Rome and things like that, and Council on Foreign Relations, they had Ali Bhutto, who was the leader of Pakistan, executed by their man in town, General al-Haq, and General al-Haq actually crossed the line a couple of times too and didn't follow the Committee of 300. And he was actually warned by Turkish Secret Service that he was going to suffer a mid-air explosion in his aircraft and be assassinated. So al-Haq was a bit clever. He had a defense intelligence agency team with him, with a brigadier general, and all these people on his plane thinking they wouldn't take him out. They took him out. They took out the Committee of 300. took out the American team on board as well. And this is a message to people. And so goes the allegation. They took out Kennedy, and they took him out. They could have taken him out with a heart attack, but they took him out in a spectacular and public fashion in order to send a message to every national leader. If we can take out the president of the US, the rest of you better follow suit. Okay, so now you're beginning to understand the Committee of 300 and their grip on the planet. The Committee of 300 control the planet with two means. One is money, mammon, or their god, Satan. That's it. Now, people will do. They will get people to sign up to do work for them because they pay well, and this is why the cash flow is critical. The drugs provide the cash flow in order to pay for things to get done. So is Venezuela about drugs? Yeah, but it's about the cash flow.
Do you want me to stop
El
this,
Chapo,
you guys,
this famous
or what?
drug lord from Mexico. My God, he's got $1.4 billion. He's a monster. He's not even a yapper type dog that won't shut up. Venezuela itself has got what, a dozen more billionaires with hundreds of billions of dollars at their disposal. It's about the cash flow. And so the Committee of 300 controls the planet through cash or their god, Satanism. And that's it.
Okay, sorry, Maria. Hey, this lady's good. 12 minutes.
Never be extorted. That's not a threat. That's an exposure. That's a man who was named a hidden game, a game fought in the shadows for decades. And here's what this president sounds like when he knows he has won this round.
Make a deal or not makes no difference to me.
You want? Okay, I'll go back and play it if I can find it. Yeah, I think I already deleted it. I'll see if I can find it and play it again after. Okay, where are we at? Darn it, now where was I?
Will never be extorted. That's not a threat. That's an exposure. That's a man who was named a hidden game, a game fought in the shadows for decades. And here's what this president sounds like when he knows he has won this round.
Make a deal or not makes no difference to me. And the reason is because we've won. But from my standpoint, I don't care.
And here's what he's demanding.
They haven't left the bargaining table. I predict they come back and they give us everything we want. And I told my people, I want everything. I don't want 90%. I don't want 95%. I told them, I want everything.
They have no cards. That is the verdict of a president who hasn't just changed the outcome. He's changed the board itself. Now, right now on social media, there are people, including some who voted for Trump, who are calling for the 25th Amendment, saying he's lost it, he's reckless, he started a war nobody wanted, and now he's telling us he doesn't care whether we win or lose. Well, here's what they're missing. Iran is not the target. Iran is a node, a piece on the board the British Empire has managed for over a century. And the president's real target is the infrastructure of imperial control itself. The financial choke points, the energy dependencies, the offshore banking apparatus. He's naming it, and he's forcing a hidden war into the daylight where it can finally be fought and won. I'm Susan Kokinda, and I've watched the empire operate in the shadows for over a century. Now it's out in the open, and if you want to understand what that means, then hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons. I'm going to cover three things today. First, how Trump flipped the Strait of Hormuz extortion operation and why Keir Starmer isn't happy. Second, how Iran's financial pipeline is being rolled up and why that leads to London. And third, why Britain's own military chief just confessed that the empire has no war plan. So for over a century, the Strait of Hormuz has been the empire's ultimate leverage point. Whoever controls it controls who prospers and who doesn't. Britain managed that choke point through Iran, through successive regime changes that go back to Mossadegh. But it was different regimes and the same imperial function. Keep the region unstable, keep the choke point contested, keep the world dependent. That's the protection racket in its purest form. The mob breaks your windows, keeping the region unstable, keeps the ships from moving, and then charges you for the protection that makes passage possible. Lloyd's of London was the insurance arm of the racket. You want your ship to transit the strait, then buy our coverage. And the City of London collected a cut on every ship. Iran breaking windows was good for business because up until now, Lloyd's just raised the premiums. Then Donald Trump moved to shut down the racket, and Lloyd's canceled all the insurance. The president told his Treasury Secretary, move in and have the U.S. provide insurance. He broke their financial arm first. Now he's finishing the job militarily. He's ending world extortion. On Fox yesterday, here's what the president said.
We're not going to let Iran make money on selling oil to people that they like and not people that they don't like or whatever it is. It's going to be all or none, and that's the way it is. And it'll be, you saw what we did with Venezuela. It'll be something very similar to that, but at a higher level.
All or none. No imperial management, no picking winners and losers. The choke point is American now, not just because America seized it, but because America named what it actually was and is refusing to play the game any longer. And this morning, we got the clearest possible confirmation of what has actually changed. Keir Starmer, the prime minister of the country that managed this choke point for a century, was asked whether Britain would join the American blockade. And he said no. Now, the president has described Starmer's position throughout this Iran conflict very clearly, characterizing it more than once as a, quote, Neville Chamberlain statement. So the mob's enforcer has been neutralized. Now, admittedly, Keir Starmer is a pretty pathetic excuse for a Don, but his bluff has been called. The choke point the British Empire managed for a century is now an American operation. Britain didn't lose access to the strait. Britain lost the game. Now, if you want to understand the full depth of this fight, the imperial architecture that the president is dismantling, and what it means for America's future, you need to be reading Promethean Action. So subscribe to our free newsletter. The link is in the description. Now, that's the physical side of the protection racket. Here's the rest of it. The U.S. is targeting the money flows to the guys who break the windows. Let's start with Dubai. The conservative treehouse flagged the story today in a post entitled, Cut Off the Money. The U.S. military will start enforcing embargo. They report that the blockade is happening against the little-discussed backdrop of Dubai targeting Iranian money changers. Dubai was the washing machine where oil proceeds went in and clean dollars came out. UAE authorities arrested dozens of IRGC-linked money changers, shut down their companies, and closed their offices. The Gulf states just shut the machine off. But that's not all. 2 days before Epic Fury launched, Treasury Secretary Bessent deployed Section 311 of the Patriot Act against Ember Merchant Bank in Zurich, which has laundered over $100 million of IRGC money. Ember is now being liquidated, and Secretary Bessent's statement wasn't just addressed to Iran. Banks should be on notice that the U.S. Treasury will aggressively protect the integrity of the U.S. financial system using the full force of our authorities. Now, Section 311 is the nuclear option of financial warfare. Bessent used it 2 days before the war began. That is not a coincidence. And here are a few other publicly named institutions that could be next, and they're headquartered in London. 2 London-registered crypto exchanges processed roughly $1 billion for the IRGC since 2023. And Santander UK ran Iranian petrochemical front companies right near Buckingham Palace. So the City of London's books are open, and Bessent has shown he knows how to read them. Iran's money is being cut off from the Gulf to London to Zurich. Its neighbors have now chosen sides, and the choke point is named and claimed. So, what does Britain have left? This week, Britain's own military chief told us. Air Chief Marshal Sir Richard Knighton admitted that the United Kingdom is updating its government war book, a strategic blueprint which has not been actively maintained since the Cold War. That is, for 30 years. Institutional knowledge has been lost, muscle memory diminished, and several years of calm has created a situation where very few in the UK would know how to respond to a war footing. 30 years, no functioning war plan. Why didn't that matter until now? Because Britain had the United States. For the 3 decades, the empire ran its geopolitical agenda on American muscle. Washington provided the troops and the carrier groups. London provided the financial plumbing and the narrative management. The City of London didn't need a war plan, and it required only one thing, an America that never asked questions. Now, that arrangement had a brand name, NATO. Britain has been the key architect of NATO's political direction since its founding, shaping its missions and its mandate and pointing American power where the empire needed it, like Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan. Every one of those wars had British intelligence fingerprints on the trigger. NATO was the mechanism, and American taxpayers and American soldiers were the instrument. Trump has now called all of that into question, and the British establishment hasn't recovered from the shock. Because without American muscle, NATO is a bureaucracy with a flag, and without NATO, Britain has no war plan. So, Sir Knighton's admission isn't a military embarrassment. It's a civilizational confession. But the empire has lost something else. For 20 years, the ideology holding much of this together was the green transition. That energy dependency didn't matter because renewables were coming. And then the Iran war blew that apart. When the strait closed, the green narrative couldn't keep the lights on or the filling stations supplied. Reality asserted itself, and the people who lived closest to physical reality felt it first. Irish farmers and truck drivers have been out in the streets, in force. 600 of Ireland's 1,500 filling stations out of fuel, and the Irish Defence Forces deployed against their own farmers. Although there are reports that a lot of the police and the military are calling in sick. Now, these aren't radicals. These are the people who live in physical reality, who need fuel to farm, to haul, and to heat. And they're calling the question. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer told the British public he is fed up with energy bills being affected by decisions involving Trump and Putin. Really? The prime minister of the country that built the choke point system, that ran the offshore banking apparatus funding the IRGC, and that imposed a green regime on his own country, is blaming Trump and Putin? That's not a political statement. That's a confession of defeat. So while the press is asking whether Vice President Vance got a deal in Islamabad, it's the wrong question. President Trump answered the right one before the talks started, when he said he didn't care about the outcome, because he'd already won the game that mattered. He dragged the extortion racket into the open. The empire ran the world through choke points that were never named, financial pipelines that were never traced, and a military arrangement that was never questioned. Concealment was their operating system. Promethean Action has been shining the light on that system all along and building the forces that can now back up the president in ending the empire's extortion racket. So if you want to be part of that.
Okay, her and her partners on YouTube, Telegram, and TikTok. Okay, we're at halfway point. It was 7 minutes 7 minutes left.
That's it. Now, let me address one more issue that ties into this. People are saying, please, and the idea is, please elevate your thinking here.
The last three will be pity videos.
No, it's the Jews. No, it's not even the Khazarian mafia or the black nobility. They're all the heavy lifters for the Committee of 300. Now, the Jew thing, just so we're clear on this, what, 92% of your Congress are dual citizens? Do they believe in Judaism? No, most Jews don't believe in Judaism. Oh, I'm a cultural Jew. What the fuck does that mean? And if you read the Talmud, it means they're sickos. But the point is this, 92%. That's because they've had to sign up so they can reap the benefits of what they get working for the Committee 300. Big money. Retirement and silly jobs when they finish, they pay them a lot of money to do the heavy lifting. Money and their God, Satan. That's it. And the people that work their way up, so you think, oh, the Jews are running the show, they're trying to distract you from the real source of power. No. They're just, the Jewish people, they're just as deceived as everybody else. Israel as a nation was a construct, we know that. It was the Khazarians, yes, the Khazarians, but they're not doing it either. And this is why when they say Israel is last, they're not talking about the nation, they're not even talking about, they're talking about this connection to the Committee of 300 that has used all of these devices to divide us, to keep nations broke and poor, and that's why DJT is such an existential threat to the Committee of 300, because he wants a strong Rwanda, he wants a strong Ethiopia, he wants a strong Australia, he wants a strong Brazil, he wants a strong fill in the blank. Because now what he is doing, what DJT is successfully doing, he is dismantling the iron-like grip, loosening the iron-like grip that the British, the Committee of 300 through their control through MI6 and all the rest of it, that's being dismantled step by step by step by step. But we have to be ready, willing, and able to then step up and do our work. You'll notice that that's a very complimentary description, yet lacking in detail. There's a reason for that. You can't even get a picture of this guy. This picture is a clip from an old video from a long time ago. This guy is deep into clandestine and covert worlds of intelligence. That's why you can't get much detail on him. If you know how to read between the lines, prestigious institutions. Yeah, I know exactly which prestigious institutions. So that's him. That shows his bona fides. Now, I'm going to show you a simplified map of the organizations that report to the Committee of 300. At the top, you can see the Committee of 300. Then you've got the US subsidiaries, all under control of the Committee of 300. The US National Reconnaissance Office, NRO, and Permindex, under control. MI6, English intelligence, and if you're not aware, MI6 created both Mossad and CIA. MI6 have been going on since Queen Elizabeth I. Stands for Military Intelligence Department 6. It was headed up by a character called C most recently, and that's where you get the character M in the James Bond movies. Moving on, and you'll see the Anti-Defamation League are plugged into them as well. All these peace cents, they're not separate organizations, they're working hand in glove. Then you've got the Bilderberg Group, again famous amongst many people, Institute of Strategic Studies, and you've got the Round Table, and the Round Table controls a lot of the heavy lifting, let's say. Now, what do they talk about? Let's have a look. Institute for International Affairs, they're the ones that select your secretaries of state, for example, Kissinger, who wasn't working for the United States in any way, shape, or form. Aspen Institute for Humanistic Studies, Canadian Institute for International Affairs, Union of Concerned Scientists, and they plug into the Tavistock Group, the Tri-Level Mission, the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, all working towards the same 300. The Dutchy Foundation, the bankers, moving on, the Tavistock Institute, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Brookings Institute. These are famous names. They have real weight in their spheres and they're under control. The Wharton School of Economics, they're controlled, all of it. Moving on, and you can, the Rand Corporation plugged into CIA, which was plugged into the MK Ultra program, Club of Rome. The Club of Rome, again, heavy lifters on behalf of the Committee 300, they do things. And then you've got individuals like Kissinger, who was appointed by the Committee of 300, as your Secretary of State, as they all are. The presidents don't matter. And Kissinger and the Star Group controlling all those mechanisms that control our lives: insurance, banking, real estate, technology, entertainment, you name it. It's there. So anyway, that's a simplified map of the mechanism of global control. And this is just the high level stuff. The low level stuff beyond it, the map becomes, it's like a bed sheet with font 10 writing on it.
Okay. We finished that one up. Yeah, the last three are 10 minutes of Benny. I'll try to get the last three.
$1,500 bonus spins to play on any Huff and Puff game.
Who do you think you are, Mr. I just wish we could all get along like we used to in middle school. I wish that I could bake a cake made out of rainbows and smiles and we'd all eat it, be happy.
She doesn't even go here.
Do you even go to this school? No. I just have a lot of feelings. Okay, go home. I'm sorry I laughed at you that time you got diarrhea at Barnes & Noble.
How about some good and gross news to start your week? It's gross because this is a sex worker that Eric Swalwell is just manhandling here in bed. Obviously, this is not good. It wouldn't be good no matter what, but he's also married. He has children, and he's still doing this. It's called congressional privilege, sweetheart. Also, you'll notice there's a bunch of dudes in the room. So, yeah, maybe Eric Swalwell can can explain like what's going on here. This is Eric Swalwell just enjoying his time, knowing that the Congressional Slush Fund will pay for any sexual harassment allegations. So he won't be on the hook, but certainly he will be on the hook for the public image fallout. There's no slush fund for that. It's official, Eric Swalwell has dropped out of the California governor's race after expose, incredible rape allegations, good riddance, loser, enjoy unemployment, also be supporting criminal indictments against you. So Eric Swalwell dropped out after, a truly breathtaking and unbelievable deluge of scumbag behavior. Let's just go through some of the top line here. Not only do you have the groping, the hooker and sex worker videos, which are authentic and real, but over 50 staffers for Eric Swalwell have released a statement calling for him to resign. Never great. They also referred to the grape allegations against him, say that they are credible. Democrats have known this for years. They never spoke up until now. Yeah. It is kind of grotesque and transactional. The fact that Democrats, realizing that they might lose the state of California, have now turned on Eric Swalwell. When Eric Swalwell's career was giving them power and not a threat to them, they didn't have any problem with him. No problem with him. They were perfectly happy for Eric Swalwell to run for president. Eric Swalwell was the #1 leading candidate in the California governor's race, but that's a jungle primary. So the point of that is that if the top two vote getters are Republicans, then Democrats will lose the governorship of California. And that's what was happening. There are so many Democrats that announced it was such a muddy field. Eric Swalwell was the top of that field, preventing other candidates from breaking through. And so he was no longer politically viable. He was no longer helping the Democrat Party. Therefore, they throw him out of they pulled a Biden on him. They pulled a Biden. They were all happy to support Eric Swalwell. As soon as he becomes politically inconvenient or costly, then they throw him out. They knew about this. They've known about this. These allegations are from like 2019. These allegations are from like 5, 6, 7 years ago. They didn't mind if he ran for president. Eric Swalwell ran for president. None of these allegations came out. It was only when he was going to cost them the governorship of California that all of this comes out. But anyway, Eric Swalwell, now the husband of an influencer, threatens a lawsuit against Swalwell, claims he sent an unsolicited dick pics to his wife at their home. And he showed up at their home. Goodness gracious. Okay. Yeah. Ali Samarco, I don't know who these people are, but anyway, he says that Swalwell would go on runs in her neighborhood and tell her to come downstairs. He also says Swalwell will send her inappropriate messages and photos on Snapchat, threatening a lawsuit. If Eric Swalwell or his attorney make a single statement that disparages my wife, I'm filing a lawsuit against him. Oof. Okay. Yikes. So yeah, his staff have turned on him. Everyone who supported him has now disavowed him, and it looks like it might be time for Ruben Galeo. He's the senator from Arizona to potentially get his. Maybe he's in the video. I'm not sure. We should find out. I'm suspending my campaign for governor, he says, to my family, friends, staff, supporters. I'm deeply sorry for the mistakes and judgment that I've made in the past. Wait, I thought these were unfounded allegations. I thought you were going to sue everybody who's making these allegations against you. What do you mean you're sorry? You're sorry? Oh, so you actually did all this stuff. So you just lied to us. I will fight the serious false allegations that have been made, but that's my fight, not campaigns. Interesting. Okay, so here we go. First comment. Bro, you should definitely fight those false allegations, especially all the videos of you doing weird shit with hookers, says Elon Musk. Elon ratioing, by the way, Eric Swalwell, 31,000 likes. Elon Musk, 76,000 likes here. So a good solid ratio. Let's go Nick Shirley here. If you aren't fit to run a campaign, what makes you fit to continue your time in Congress? Resign. Good first step. Now resign from Congress or face expulsion. F you, no peace for you. Resign, bitch, or you will be expelled. George Santos. Fantastic. Now resign. Okay, retard of the week. Suspending your campaign over what you call false allegations. Interesting. Why would you suspend your campaign if it wasn't, if these were false? Why suspend a campaign over false allegations? More reason to stay in the fight. Yeah, you're cooked. Let's look at Charlie Eric Swalwell tweet. Wouldn't you think it'd be the biggest story if Eric Swalwell had an extensive relationship with the Chinese Communist spy for 6 years, all while accusing Trump of collusion with Russia? It's always the people who you most expect. Democrats believe all women if he's running for governor, but not if he's just staying in Congress. That's right. Yeah, it's always the guys. It's always the male feminists. It's always the male feminists, isn't it, Sonny? It's okay, bro. Fang's always there if you need somebody to vent to. It was a great tweet I saw this morning. It's like half Chinese flags lowered to half-mast after Eric Swalwell ends campaign. Now he does, though, need to resign from Congress, and it needs to happen immediately. This is interesting. This Ruben Galeo, he's a little butt buddy of Eric Swalwell. They were besties. And look at them just eating a sex worker alive on, no doubt, a congressional funded trip, right? This is what happens on these congressional funded trips, by the way. Disgusting. To my Republican colleagues, sexual assault victims deserve justice. Do the right thing. Isn't that amazing? Do the right thing, Eric Swalwell. Right. Swalwell is on the House Intelligence Committee. And not only did he get taken by a Chinese spy, he also hooked up with prostitutes in front of other people who recorded the interaction. Ugh. Now DHS is investigating Rep. Eric Swalwell for allegedly hiring a Brazilian nanny illegally. You know, let me just tell you what, man. If you're a married man and you hire nannies like this, you got problems. I'm just gonna leave it at that, man. Just be careful, married dudes. 33-year-old from Rio entered on a J-1 au pair visa in 2021, and it expired in 2022. Complaints allege that Swalwell kept her on until 2024, paying her under the table with campaign funds, even after work authorization was denied. So he may be going to prison. A filmmaker filed the complaints. Photos show her still with the family. No employer, including a member of Congress, is above the law, says DHS. Here's what I'll say. Eric Swalwell is like a perfect example of the virtue signal, right? Even when he's recording these videos, he's always like, even when he's recording these apology videos, he's in a silky shirt, halfway buttoned in a hotel room, leering and slurring towards the camera. Don't be these people. Live out your actual value system. Your sins will find you out. The weapons that you form will be used against you, and pride cometh before destruction. All really good things to remind yourself of right now. Okay? Boy. And don't think that Democrats are somehow virtuous over any of this. They're only doing this because Eric Swalwell is threatening their power. They didn't care when he was running for president. They didn't care when he was in Congress. They didn't care when he was going on MSNBC attacking Trump. All of this is about power for them. They have absolutely no morals at all here. So CNN can pat themselves on the back as much as they want. They didn't care or run the story until Eric Swalwell was threatening their power. Anyway, it's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. Funniest comment in the world, Elon Musk. Well done. Well-deserved roast. See ya.
Okay, I'm going to finish off with one more Benny, you guys. We had a busy day today. This will be the last one.
Who done it? We're looking for a house closer to everything, but we don't know where to start.
Find it with Realtor.
9 minutes. Yeah, that's the last
Even
one.
before the Iran war popped off, Iran was making murder mystery pornos of Donald Trump at his golf course getting killed by a drone. This is from Iranian state TV. It includes an unmanned vehicle that zips around President Trump's golf course and then kills him while he's playing golf. This is a drone that's being flown above the golf course and then driven through the golf course, and it takes out Donald Trump. Ironically,
No, Maria, I never got your Gmail.
but this plot almost happened when a dude named Ryan Ralph crawled up into this little hole and nearly shot and killed President Trump. He had everything to kill the president. He was closer, actually, than the Butler shooter. This is while Donald Trump was playing golf. And so Trump is particularly vulnerable out on the golf course. The Secret Service taking some major steps to make sure that something bad doesn't happen to the president. Obviously, there was a guy who just attacked Palm Beach residents of Donald Trump with a shotgun and a can of gas. They were able to find this deer stand looking right out at where Trump gets off the plane. Maybe it's for photographers. Okay, doubt it. What the hell happened here? Why does somebody have a deer stand there in the middle of Palm Beach? Anyway, they moved Trump's inauguration indoors also because of fear of drones. Obviously, Trump's motor vehicle has been under threat, rerouted in this instance because of a suspicious device that was left in the middle of the road. To reroute the presidential motorcade, by the way, takes quite some doing. During advanced sweeps of Palm Beach Airport, a suspicious object was uncovered. It warranted the presidential motorcade to reroute and take aggressive action accordingly. F-16 fighters scrambled and deployed flares to scare off a plane near Trump's Air Force One. And so anyway, the point is that the threats have been mounting. The drone threat is something that is particularly of concern. Trump says the new White House ballroom will have a drone-free roof. A drone-proof roof is probably what he actually means. Trump in the ballroom, it'll be a drone-free roof. Its drone-ness won't touch it. It's a big, beautiful, safe building. Again, as we've mentioned, President Trump did move his inauguration indoors because there was no protection against drone swarms. And this is something that they take extremely seriously. Donald Trump has bragged about all of the new weapons that he's deployed with the American military, like the discombobulator and sonic weapons. And then also, of course, Ghost Murmur, this new CIA weapon that was used to find a pilot in Iran. Donald Trump found an adoring fan at his golf course in Florida. And as Trump was riding around with his grandson in his golf cart, he stopped to take a photo.
Great shape.
This is how people treat you. So Trump gets out of the golf cart.
Is she in good shape or what?
He's in good shape, says Trump to the young co-ed. What I am taking interest in here in all of this is President Trump's secret service. And while the young bouncing girl is, well, obviously catching the president's attention, it is this gun that catches my attention. What the hell is that? How is Trump moving these days? What do they got there? Look at this. It's like hard to see. Like, is there a barrel? Are there any, like, what are they firing? What is this? Is this the discombobulator? What's going on here with this Chud's gun? Look at that thing. What the hell is that? Is this the thing? What is this thing that Trump's Secret Service guy is holding? Well, I asked the same question, and so we went and did some research. It's a drone shield drone gun MK4. Okay, let's go ahead and look. What is this? An anti-drone gun. Portable, ultra-portable, handheld countermeasure drone gun. Here it is. From MSS Defense. You can see here. So let's go ahead and read about what is this? Starship Trooper's gun, right? What is this? And what does it do?
Do you support Israel and the Jewish people? Now, more than ever, Israel needs committed friends around the world to voice.
It's a handheld electronic detection defense for USA countermeasures manufactured by Drone Shield. It features a 3.2 kilogram weight, ideal for military and law enforcement operations. Its battery supports 1 hour of operation, ensuring effective neutralization, certified, and so on. Well, okay, what does it do? It is a handheld electronic detection device. It is designed for rapid response against unmanned aerial systems, providing military and law enforcement personnel with reliable countermeasures in diverse environments. The drone MK4 operates by disrupting UAS controls, navigation, and video capabilities using non-kinetic jamming technology. It features quick startup of less than 3 seconds and a NATO standard battery of over 1 hour operation. The device's intuitive controls and LED indicators ensure ease of use in high-pressure situations. These applications are military, rapid neutralization, law enforcement, border security, critical infrastructure, event protection. There you go. Okay. How does it work? Show us. Wrong. Put your battery in. Okay. How's it work? Show work. I want to see it shoot a drone out of the sky. Just count it out. Tap. So it shoots the drone out of the sky. And that's what it's supposed to do. So that's what they were carrying. This is how much they anti-drone. This is how much they actually are a little worried. Yeah, there you go. It's a Zorg ZF1.
It's not over.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. Okay. Super soaker. The memes are pretty great. Golf balls. All right. Oh, no. Whoa. Flamethrower. Hair dye. All right. Flux capacitor 9,000. Okay. So I guess it shoots drones out of the sky. There's got to be footage of a drone actually shooting a drone out of the sky, and we found some.
Okay, you guys. We got a couple bennies in. Wow, what a day we had on Intel. Oh. First show was really good, and second we had a couple good stuff. Make sure everybody watches the first show. And thanks for coming with the new. We got a couple new people in chat. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy my channel. And I come on normally one show. My times are different, so when I get enough, if I get a lot of intel, I'll come on early. Just keep an eye on my notification. So, yep, thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks, mods. Kay, Flagel, Tim, Carol, Lucy was late tonight. Yeah, the first show was good, Lucy. And so God bless everybody. Love all. Please hit the like. Stay safe, stay strong, keep faith, and never give up. Signing off for the date of the 13th of April, number 13. Chico and Dude. See y'all tomorrow, you guys. Have a good night.